Welcome to Signature Required. It is intended for Tennesseans by Tennesseans. The heart of a Tennessean, the volunteer state, is serve, and we do so largely without self-promotion.
And these are genuine people that get up every day and want to make art, or want to educate the nations, or want to have a heart of love in a way that makes a difference.
Learn from 50 years of experience, take a nugget away, and then go share it with a friend.
Liz Atack, Elizabeth Sherrard, welcome to Signature Required. I'm going to read a brief bio on both of y'all, and we'll get started. Elizabeth, you are the Director of Major Gifts at the Nashville Public Library, and connecting donors with library initiatives is your chief goal.
Yes, that is it.
And Liz, you are a program manager, leading programs that transform Nashville families engaged with education. And really, when I read your bio earlier, my favorite is that you have won the I Love My Librarian award.
Actually, it was Family Teacher of the Year.
Oh, and that was in 2014.
Yes.
So you've been a librarian your whole career?
I'm actually not a librarian.
Okay.
I don't have a library degree. I have a degree in education.
Oh.
So I think of myself as an educator who works in the library.
Okay. When I moved to Nashville and got my first library card, I felt like I had made it. Like I had a permanent Nashville address, which is what I needed to get my card. And I have been continuously impressed at each phase of my life how the library has played a part. And what's interesting about the two of you sitting here is it seems like you have two sides of the same coin, right? You're doing a lot of engagement with individual families and making an impact on individual lives, but you're also serving as a catalyst for other organizations that want to do great work to come in and serve as well. So I can't wait to get into all of it. I didn't know this. The Nashville Public Library serves 6.5 million items. That's what they served in 2024. As we talk about life evolving, right? Everyone thinks we're in the digital age, and do books even have a place with e-readers and all of this? Somebody tell me, what role do libraries still play? Obviously a big one if you're serving 6.5 million items a year.
Yeah. So I think about libraries, they're about two things. They're about information and access. And that was important 100 years ago, and it's just as important today. If you need trusted information about, say, a surgery that your doctor mentioned you might need, sure, you can go home and Google that, but if you go to the library, a librarian can help you find a website or a health resources database in our collection that can give you accurate information so you know what your doctor is suggesting. You can help you formulate questions to ask. So that's a big piece of what the library is about. We're a repository of information. And then the access piece is really essential too. It's a place where you can go and you can look at books, you can browse the internet, and there's no expectation to buy anything. It is free and open to everyone. And that's a really special thing, that the only barrier to access is your ability to get there. And you don't even have to actually go there. You can, if you have internet at your home or at your work, you're actually able to log on and get access to all that trusted information as well.
I think you hit on something really interesting. We talk about the digital age, but gosh, doesn't it feel so isolating when you get that diagnosis or you have to research that thing that you never thought you were going to have to research, and then you're at home on Google and it is overwhelming to your senses to Google things like that. And I never had thought about it that you can go talk to a librarian and there are so many health databases that you probably couldn't just pull up on your internet browser by yourself. And you don't feel like you're by yourself. You're in a community, which brings me to, you are one library, but 20 branches. Talking about the community that you guys cultivate and the access, what are you trying to do to make sure that you're available for every kid, every family?
I think that's the beauty of Nashville Public Library, 21 branches across Davidson County. And every branch looks and feels different than the next because it really is intentional about reflecting the community that it's in and the patrons that come. We have a branch in Southeast Antioch, and they have the largest collection of multiple languages of books, and their signage has multiple languages because we know that's where a lot of Spanish-speaking people, Kurdish, come to that branch. The Richland Park branch has got a lot of children that come, and so they have wonderful children's programs. It really just hats off to the librarians that work at each branch, just really knowing their community and providing the needed services that they see each and every day.
Yeah, and we know still, I talked a little bit about access earlier. We have 21 locations in almost every corner of the county, but we also know that so many people can't make it to the library. And this is me putting my work hat on. My programming specifically targets preschool-age children and their teachers and families. About 20,000 children are enrolled in some sort of child care center or early education program across Davidson County, and their parents are at work and the teachers are at work. And so the work of Bringing Books to Life, the program I manage, is to actually go to those child care centers to support the teachers, to do story times, and we work closely with the library's puppet truck to bring programming to the child care centers. And then we do workshops for parents and families to support them as they support their children's early literacy skill development. And so I think that outreach piece is really key, and I think it's something really special about Nashville Public Library, and something that a lot of other libraries in other cities do outreach, but I think no one does it quite like Nashville Public Library.
I happen to agree with you. So what you're touching on is going to all these daycare centers, and so that brings me to Miss Dolly in these Bright Beginnings. And part of this Bright Beginnings work, correct me if I'm wrong, is to get a cart of books in every child care facility across Davidson County. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we have launched a campaign or initiative called Begin Bright. And one of the things that Begin Bright aims to do is to put a little library in every child care center across Davidson County. So Bringing Books to Life, the job that I showed up for 18 years ago, does that outreach to early childhood education programs. One of the things that my team has known for years or has observed for years is that children are hard on books. It's really hard for childcare centers, even ones that are very well funded, to keep new, exciting, interesting books on their shelves, because the books, when they're new and exciting and interesting, they get loved to death. And books are expensive. So a lot of our childcare centers don't have big budgets to go out and replace those books. And so we've often thought over the years, wouldn't it be great if we could provide more books to childcare centers? For Begin Bright, we worked with a consultant who did a landscape analysis of early childhood education in Davidson County and looked at what were the library's strengths, what were the gaps in services to the childcare centers, and book access was the big one. Her recommendation was to provide a little library to every childcare center so that they would have books on hand. Also to make that library not a stagnant collection, but to refresh it regularly, replace the books that get loved to death, and then also to provide curriculum materials and resources so that teachers know what's in the collection and know how to use it in the classroom. And so we're really excited to collaborate with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library on that initiative.
I love that. And it's so true. Kids do love books to death. Our copy of Nuffle Bunny by Mo Willems, the whole spine is detached from the rest of the book.
Is too.
It's our favorite.
Yeah.
We love it. But I think it's so interesting you're talking about refreshing, because kids do get stuck on a book and love it to death. But then when they're done with it, they're done with it. And they're ready for the next book.
Yep.
I love that. I was raised by a working mom, and yeah, we didn't get to go to the library because she would work. I would be at daycare before they opened, and sometimes till the very hours that it closed, and trying to get to a library or purchase a bunch of books on her salary was just not available. But it was my grandmother that volunteered at her library, and whenever I would go stay with her for weeks at a time, she would take me in, and she helped with, and it was more than, like you're saying, it's more than just books, right? They were a place where people voted. They were a place where communities came together. There was a lot of elderly people in our population. So she would get the books and then run them to the elderly that couldn't get there. And so I think I learned community service by going to the library with my grandmother. But I'm sure you guys hear those stories all the time.
But they never get old.
Yeah, they never do.
It's inspiring every day to go out and know that there's a need, and the library is uniquely positioned and fits to address so many. We have a donor that says the library's for everyone from the twinkle to the wrinkle instead of cradle to grave.
Can you please
Twinkle.
put it on a T-shirt?
Yeah, I think
would
we
really
should.
like a library
That's
T-shirt.
a great idea. From the twinkle to the wrinkle. And Liz's work has been so incredible. I think we look at childcare across the city, and yes, there's some childcare that have a lot of funds and they're doing all right, but the majority struggle to keep the lights on and to pay the wages for the childcare workers and don't have the money for books. And also, these childcare workers don't have an education background. So not only to be able to provide the books, but the curriculum and materials and even the confidence to be able to use those books in the classroom, I think is huge. When, like you growing up, were in childcare a lot, their children are spending the majority of their day there. And knowing that their brains are developing at the fastest rate in those first years, they need to be surrounded by books all day in all pieces of the classroom. And I think we all know we're supposed to read to children, but really when you even look further into the science behind it, it is so compelling that if children aren't ready to read by kindergarten, they are just set up for a lot of struggles going forward. So I think that's what Begin Bright is all about. I think we have an audacious goal of having every child in Nashville reading ready by kindergarten through Begin Bright.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. And I do think there's some parent guilt that you're touching on.
Yes.
I had 3 kids in 3 years. So I would sit and try to read to my kids, and then darn if the baby wasn't crying, or they would get bored because I don't do the voices correctly. And I found story time at the library. It assuaged my guilt because I was lucky enough to be in a position that I could take them during the day to story time, but it was somebody else reading the words that maybe they were so sick of me talking to them all day, they wanted somebody else.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I think that's really powerful. Yeah. One thing I loved reading about what you guys are doing is how many hours you have talking library available. And I would love to talk about that a little bit just on a personal level. I have a daughter with dyslexia, and that maybe is part of why reading at home was so hard. I had no idea trying to teach my kids to read. You don't know when your kid isn't getting it, and what works for one doesn't work for another. And so verbal auditory taking in has become a huge part of how we do books in our house for our daughter.
Just hearing you talk about your fears as a parent of maybe not being enough as far as reading and literacy are concerned. And that's something that I think so many parents and families feel, because we think that in order to read with our child and to share that gift with them, it has to look a certain way. And something that we do in our workshops for parents, and then is also part of really every children's program that the library does, is to show everybody that it doesn't have to be a sit still and be quiet and listen activity, that you can engage a child's whole body with books and reading. For a lot of children, listening attentively doesn't mean that they're sitting and looking and being very quiet.
Sure.
They are taking in what you're saying, and they're getting excited, and they want to try something out that they're hearing about in the book. A lot of what we do in our workshops is assuage that guilt. I think about this woman who, this was so long ago, she was in a workshop that I was leading, and she was a grandmother. And she had a visual impairment. And one of the things that we do in our parent workshops, and that we'll do in the digital platform that we're creating for Begin Bright, is we teach a technique that's called dialogic reading. You don't have to remember that.
Thank goodness.
But it's simply a technique for using a book as a spark to a conversation. And so as an adult, the way you do that is you open the book and you ask an open-ended question about what's happening in the picture. What's happening here? What do you think is going to happen next? And you let the child talk. And as the adult, you stay quiet unless you need to keep the child talking. The whole goal is to get the child talking. And I had this room full of parents and grandparents, and I was showing them how you do this technique. And she raised her hand and she said, my children are all grown. I help take care of my grandchildren now. And I have a visual impairment. And that was how I read books. I couldn't actually see the words in the book. So I just asked them what was happening in the pictures and let them tell me. And I just thought I was doing that because that was the only thing I could do. And now I hear that it was a really good thing. And I love that. I think we all have the assets that we need to build early literacy skills and in young children, and to get those children, not teach them how to read, but get them reading ready. And so sometimes it's helpful just to have somebody give you a pat on the back and acknowledge that you asking, oh, what's happening in that picture? Just because it just comes out, you're not even thinking about it. That is a really good thing to do. Or singing silly songs with your child in the bathtub or while you're walking down the sidewalk. Like, those are really important things that build early literacy skills in your child. And so much of it comes naturally. So we give them the pat on the back to tell them that they're doing a great job, whether or not they know it, and then offer them some tips and techniques to do more. And we always connect everything to the library and its resources.
I love that. We do research at our foundation, and over 80% of women in Tennessee think it's harder to be a mom today than it was 20 years ago. And there's so many things that go into that, right? Between the digital age and all of the things we see. But I do think having this exposure to what other people are doing creates so much fear that we're doing it wrong. I remember being a young mom and just breaking down, being like, I'm going to mess him up. Why did anybody ever give me a child? This was the worst idea ever. And I love that you come alongside people and don't say, this is what you're doing wrong, or, hey, do it this way. It's, here's a spectrum of things that you have access to. And I think that's phenomenal. So let me ask, what is the thing that you are most excited that you are doing right now? I could list, there's program after program, stat after stat that you guys are growing year over year. Your budget is exploding. It probably doesn't feel like it's exploding, but it's growing so much year over year. What are you waking up every day? I am so excited to work on X. And they can be different things.
As the foundation side, so we exist as the nonprofit that we raise money to give to Liz and the library and their team to go do great things with. Every morning I get up and I'm so excited watching this come to life. We've been raising the funds since February of 24, and it's becoming a reality. They're filming these digital trainings. The little libraries are in the works. The plan is to start piloting in the spring, early summer. So to see something that we've really been talking about and researching for almost 2 years now, watching it come to life, and then watching the city just wrap around and join us. We had a really audacious goal of raising $20 million for Begin Bright, and it was an initial goal because it's a lot of money, and we've made it. We have hit the 20. We're not stopping because we want this to be sustained for years and creating the endowment for it. But it's just been very humbling to watch not only the library do their incredible work, but watch the magic of Nashville philanthropy come behind it and see the problems and want to be part of the solution with us.
Wow. So you've reached your goal of
Initial goal.
Initial goal. I
Initial
love that.
goal.
Never stop growing.
Yes,
if you're
exactly.
If you're not growing, you're dying. So your initial goal of $20 million for this program, that's a huge deal.
It was a big deal in less than a year.
And just I think people are so behind it right now because it's so simple. Let's put books in babies' hands.
Exactly.
Period.
That's one of our first donors. Just such a wonderful man, and he is asked a lot for gifts, and he looked at us and said, "This is going to work. It is so simple that we're teaching very simple tools, and we're putting books in the hands of kids." And we've hired Cynthia Osborne and the Prenatal to 3 Policy Impact Center to study this over the 4 years. We know it's going to work, but we want it in writing in the proof. And she does national research across the country. And she said, I've seen pieces of this done in different cities, but I've never seen it all put together in one program. She said, there's no way it's not going to work. And not that there won't be tweaks and edits along the way, but we feel really good about what we're creating here.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I think Elizabeth touched on a lot of it. So it's all the pieces together. So through Begin Bright, we have the opportunity to solve so many of the problems, fill in so many of the gaps that we've seen over the years in childcare and in the kind of the early education ecosystem in Nashville. And so being able to supply little libraries with curriculum materials and to know that it's not just a one-time gift of books, here are your books, good luck,
Sure.
we'll see you later, that we're going to be able to continually refresh the collections, provide curriculum materials through the digital learning platform that we're building. We can offer ongoing training for teachers and for parents, and then to be walking alongside Dr. Osborne and her team at Peabody to know whether or not we're making the impact that we think and hope we are, but also walking alongside them to make those tweaks and modifications along the way so that we know that what we're building makes that impact and we know how to sustain that impact over time. And I think it's not often in the nonprofit and government world where you get to wake up every day and think about this really long-term project that where the intent is to sustain it, is to build it in such a way that there's no question about sustainability. And that's really special. I think so often you build something and then you see if it works. And if it works, great, maybe you
Sure.
can continue doing it. If it doesn't work, we tried.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited that there's not going to be that, oh, it's going to be, okay, that if this piece didn't work, how do we fix it? How do we do something that will work? And so having so many early education professionals helping us, having Dr. Osborne and her team working with us, having the philanthropic community that is so invested in making this a success, that's really exciting.
Oh my gosh. I love all of that. And I think, too, my husband and I are involved in a lot of nonprofits. It can be really hard to measure impact. You have all this empathy and you have a heart to serve a community and you know intrinsically this has to happen. But without the data, you can't get donors on board. You can't send your message. So I really applaud you guys for leaning into data on the beginning. I think it's going to really make you have the longevity that you're hoping for. At least for the data nerds out there. Give me a novel all day, but I know that I'm married to a data nerd that will want all of that data. That's huge. Yeah. What do you wish people knew about this program? You guys are working your tails off. You're raising money. You're getting this sustainability of this initiative in place. It has all this buzz. Yes, let's give babies books and young children. But what do you wish people knew that they probably don't?
Something that, just as I reflect back on my career thus far with the library, something that back in 2007 that I don't think was as widely known as it is now, but it's still not as widely known as it should be, is just how critical those early years are in children's development. And during those first 3 years of life, children's brains are producing millions of connections every second as they take in the world around them. And then by the time a child's 5, their brain is 90% developed. And so I think just recognizing how important those early years are, and then the important role that parents, educators, and librarians play in that brain development is just something that I wish everybody knew going in, that these are really critical years. And everybody has a role to play. Everybody has something really important that they can do to better the future.
Can I have two?
You can have as many as you wish. Yes.
I think one piece that really struck me, we've heard for years now that the third grade reading level, only 1 in 3 are reading on third grade level. And third grade is just too late to start working on that, and kindergarten is too late to start. And that's where I feel like this program is so important, is getting the children before they reach kindergarten. We've had a couple of meetings with Dr. Battle, and she is so supportive of this because she said, I get these children in kindergarten and we're expecting kindergarten teachers to teach those that are almost reading and then those that don't even know their letters yet. And we're expecting them to all read at the same time and move up at the same time. And so she just feels like this is such a gift to her and to the school system in Nashville to have children hopefully coming in on the same level. So that's from the programmatic piece. I hope people realize we need to start young and not wait until there's already a problem in second and third grade. And then from the fundraising perspective, a bigger piece is just knowing that the community can support the library. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a government entity, tax dollars pay for the library. And that is true. They pay the majority of the budget. But it is the foundation that comes in and raises that private support so that we can be innovative and try new things and be flexible and nimble, like creating Begin Bright. And the city will oftentimes take pieces of that on once we show success. But it's really that public-private support that makes these award-winning programs happen.
Mm. There's something so entrepreneurial about what you guys are doing. And I think, for better or for worse, maybe sometimes it's deserved, sometimes it's not. Government entities, budgets that traditionally are supported by tax dollars don't always use funds in the best way, or they get a bad rap for being slow to pivot or try new things. And what I'm hearing from you guys is so refreshing is, hey, that stigma doesn't apply here. Look at all of the cool things that you're doing. And you're not afraid to say, I need to refresh this. You're not afraid to say, I want the data because if this doesn't work, we're not going to scrap it, but we're going to fix it. And we're going to make this last. And I just really applaud you because I think people need to hear success stories where their tax dollars are at work in a way that matters. And, oh, by the way, you can give more if this is something you're interested in. Yeah. Now, to play devil's advocate a little bit, what about the donors pool out there that aren't grandparents or don't have young kids? And that's not the thing that they're waking up every day worried about. What is the societal impact of early literacy? Why should everyone care?
I know you mentioned you have a 5-year-old. I have a 5.5-year-old. So for a lot of the time that I've been doing this work, I didn't have a child. So it wasn't personal in that sense, but it is personal because we live in a community. And so when I go to the grocery store, the checker, that's someone, I want that person to have good literacy skills because they're going to be able to do their job more efficiently. I think literacy is so foundational that it really touches every aspect of our lives. And I think if you asked somebody who had low literacy levels, they would say the same, that literacy does touch every aspect of their lives, and they would have to come up with workarounds. So I think as a member of the community, I see the people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis, I want them to have good literacy skills because it helps them and it helps the whole community. So I think we're all interconnected. And I think having strong basic literacy skills is just part of that. We all benefit. We all benefit when we all benefit.
Yeah. And the percentage of children that end up dropping out in high school because it's all tied back to that third grade reading. And a lot of things are predicted. Prison beds, dropout rates. They look at that third grade reading level because third grade is where you switch from learning to read to reading to learn. And it's just a critical point in life. And so it really impacts all pieces of society when you have a population that is not literate. It affects crime, it affects workforce availability, so many pieces that even if you don't have children, it's affecting you as well.
But there is also a really strong link between your overall health and your literacy level. And we're whole people. We're all whole people. And one piece of your life impacts another. And I think of literacy, having good literacy, it means that you also probably have good health. You probably have more earning power. We're all connected. It's all connected in you. And so it's a foundational piece of who you are and who you can be.
I think it's important, too, for what we want, not just our nation, but we're focused here in Tennessee, right? Particularly Nashville Public Libraries, but in Tennessee, everyone wants to be here for a reason. Everyone's moving here for a reason. It's because it's such a cool place to live. And I just happen to think literacy initiatives like what you guys are doing is what makes Tennessee. It's what makes it the place that you want to raise your babies. It's what makes it the place you want to have a business, because you want this workforce that has been poured into since before they went to kindergarten to help them be whole people, successful people with unlimited potential. And I think, too, the longer I'm on this earth, the more I think about it's just the weight of positive input and negative input. And every time you read a book or someone tells you you're smart, or someone tells you, I know this is really hard, but you can do it, or you're not being a horrible parent, you're doing your best, and here's one more thing that you can do to be a little bit more educated about what you're doing than you were yesterday, that tips the scales in self-esteem in such a way that it's, you know better, you do better.
Absolutely.
The more positive we can get, the less negative we're going to put out. Just that's my simple brain science for you today.
So true. It is so true.
So I feel like I'd be remiss if I sat here and didn't ask a few just like fun questions
Sure.
of you guys. So working in the world of literacy and books, I feel like this would be picking your favorite child. But what book impacted you the most growing up or in your adult life? What's your book?
My book.
I'll start. So
You
you can
start,
think.
yeah.
Look at how excited she is
I
to
know.
answer this question.
I'm like, oh, there's so many. There's
She
so
lit
many.
up like a firecracker. I'll let you have more than one if you need to.
As a child, my favorite book was Madeline by Ludwig Bemelmans. And it's one of the first books I remember my parents reading to me. What I don't remember about it, though, is that I loved it so much. I wanted it for my bedtime story every night. But I also didn't want the lights on because I wanted it to be dark so I could fall asleep. So they had to memorize it. So they would just recite it to me. And first of all, they can still recite it from
Can
memory.
they really?
But what I think about that as an adult reflecting back is that it's a great story, and I still love that book. But it wasn't about the book. It was about that feeling that you get when somebody reads to you. And I think now I read that book with my son, but I remember that cozy, loving feeling of having my parents read that book to me. And so that's something that I channel a lot in my everyday work when I'm thinking about how can we support young children and teachers and parents in early literacy, is how can we get to everybody to that warm, fuzzy feeling of being read to. But also when my parents talk about it, they talk about how much they loved reading it. And you can see their faces light up when they recite it 40-something years later from memory. And that's what I want everybody to feel.
Oh, I love that.
No pressure. The first children's book that popped into my mind, and again, I have the same, even the mental image of my grandmother sitting there reading Corduroy.
Oh, I loved Corduroy.
And I remember when I had my first and someone gave it to us, and I almost cried, just all of a sudden, like the memories of, I hadn't thought about the book Corduroy in so long, and just that feeling of being at my grandmother's on her kind of weird looking green couch and snuggled in and reading about that bear who gets lost, but then is found and loved. And I think that's a piece of books. We had Kate DiCamillo come and speak, just incredible children's author. And this has stuck with me of books show children that there are hard things in life, but that it's going to be okay. And that's how we are going to encounter difficult things. And books can show you not only that you can make it, but there are good things that can come on the other side and introduce you to different cultures and people. It opens doors to everything. And I think Corduroy still, though, is my standing.
I think mine is Anne of Green Gables. My daughter's middle name is Anne with an E, Daphne Anne, after Sweet Anne. And I remember my mom reading it to me for the first time, and it was the first time I felt like I saw myself in a person and she was like pesky and annoyed everyone, but also super heartwarming. And I was like, that's kind of me. I think people like me, but I know that I talk way more than I should, and I should probably go away and mind my own business, but I'm just not going to. And I saw myself in Anne. And then after I loved it, then we would get the movies. So after I read them all, and anytime I was sick, back before streaming I would have Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea. And like when I was like sick and you didn't want to always read when you were sick, I would watch them on repeat. So that in my mom's bed. So that was like the 1-2 punch for me.
Aw, I obviously loved Anna.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I think we see ourselves. And that's why I have a lot of friends. And I always joke, this is probably a horrible thing, but there's always going to be that one thing you wish you could change about yourself, right? That like, I wish I was better at X or Y. I wish I was better at reading nonfiction because I feel like I would intake so much and there's so much I wish I knew and I meet so many brilliant people and I wish I would kept that data in my head. But I just love fiction so much. And I find that I process complex thought. I think about all of the world's problems, but I don't think about them while I'm reading. But at the end of a book, I'm like, something clicks for me. And I feel like I can go and be a better human to the world when I read fiction. But that's myself. That is me telling on myself is I wish I could read more nonfiction, but I'm a novel girl.
I think life is short and you should read what you enjoy. And like you said, it's not like you just read a story and then that's that. It sparks thoughts and connections for you. And I think any good book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, does that. So I'm really big on if it feels good, read it, and no judgment with what you read. Like we can read for information, like just to get information, but we can also read for pleasure and that there's nothing wrong with that and just do it.
I think reading in my life has also been a form of therapy. Yeah. I remember really hard seasons. And when you watch a show, I don't know, maybe just me, I find myself scrolling. Or if I'm cooking dinner, I'm also trying to help with homework. But when I sit with a book, I'm going to miss entire swaths of the story if I'm not focused. And all of a sudden, it's like your brain has a break even though it's working.
Yes.
Have you experienced that?
Absolutely. There's nothing else you can be doing when you're reading but actually reading. And I don't think there are many other activities these days where we're not trying to multitask. And it's a gift that we need to embrace more and make more time, I think, for in the busyness of life.
So what are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Oh, yes.
And it is fascinating and very convicting.
I was going to say, does it hurt your feelings? Because just the title hurts my feelings.
No, it's actually a little bit liberating and really making me think through how much as a family and even in a career, like how much I'm hurrying and is it really all necessary? It's a great book. Highly recommend.
What about you?
I am reading a book. It's actually not out yet, but it will be out later this spring. It's called Run for the Hills by Kevin Wilson. Kevin Wilson is I think he's one of my favorite writers. He is on the faculty at University of the South in their creative writing program. And because he lives in Tennessee, a lot of his stories, at least in part, take place in Tennessee. But he has just this real oddball sense of humor that I really appreciate. And he walks that line between something being just totally out there and a little like fantastical, but also grounded in reality and also just really heartwarming. And so this book is about a young woman who runs a family farm with her mom, and her dad has left her like 20 years before the book began. And a man shows up at their farm one day and says, "I'm your half-brother. My dad left us when I was 10, and I figured out he came here. Do you want to come?" And I think he did this 2 or 3 more times. "Do you want to come with me on a road trip to find our other half siblings?" And so that's what the book is about. And I don't know. I'm like halfway through.
You can't wait to go home and read it.
I don't know what's going to happen next.
I love that. I have with a gal that I work with, we have a running debate. Do you read one book at a time? I'm one, or I won't tell you which one. Do you read one at a time, start to finish, or do you have multiple going at once?
One book at a time, for sure.
I have tried to be the kind of person that has multiple books going, and I just can't do it because I get too caught up in one of the books, and then the other one gets sidelined until I finish that. So I'm a one-book person.
I'm a weirdo. I have 3 or 4 at
wow.
a time, and I can't help it. I always have one that I'm reading that is like a novel that I'm reading for joy. I have one on my Kindle in case I'm in a car line, and I always keep a Kindle like in my purse so that I'm never without a book. And then I have at least one for work on Audible going, and then one, which is usually nonfiction, which I can't make myself sit and read. So I usually have a nonfiction on Audible or another novel on Audible.
So you must read a lot of books during the year.
You wish I did, but I never am alone.
Yeah.
Because I have 4 children.
You have 4 children.
So that's why I maximize like those 10-minute moments, but I may not get to read more than 10 minutes a day. So it takes a really long time to read all of them, but I always have them all going.
I love
live
that.
in them forever.
My daughter is like that. She's in 4th grade, and I'll just watch her. There are books all over the house, and she'll just pick one up and read that one, and then she leaves that and is in another room reading another one. I said, "How do you know what's going on in all these?" She goes, "Oh, yes, I do."
She sounds brilliant. We should be friends.
I will say I feel like it's my crowning achievement that she loves to read as a parent. I feel like I've succeeded in something. She's never without a book in the car or in her hand.
Oh, good job, Mama.
Well, thank you.
One thing we haven't talked about yet is the digital back end of this, what you guys are truly building out online to support this. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. We have the opportunity to create a digital learning platform. Something that we have known for a long time is that teachers need training, both just because they want to be effective teachers, but also they actually have to have it, like they're required by the state to get a certain number of hours.
Which is a good thing.
It's absolutely a good thing. And in order to really grow our teacher professional development offerings and our parent workshop offerings, the best way to scale it is to be digital. And so we actually have been working with a company called Bounce Back. They have developed an online learning platform that is around teacher mental health. But we're using the architecture of that platform to make a learning platform that's about early literacy. And so we're in the process of filming interviews and panel discussions with experts and teachers and parents where they just talk about early literacy, why it's important, what they can do, what has worked really well or hasn't worked really well for them. And then we'll make short little 60 to 90 second practice videos for teachers and parents on simple things that they can do to build early literacy skills. Just like everything that the library does, it'll be free. We're going to be rolling it out to the child care centers first in conjunction with the little libraries. So when they get their little library, they'll also get access to the app. And then the hope is after we've had a chance to work with our friends at Peabody and really measure and make sure that we're making the impact that we want to make with this digital content, then we will take it countywide. So anybody in Nashville would have access.
Oh, that's going to be such a cool resource for people because you know better, you do better. And those little videos will help so that people like me don't have to read the parenting books.
Right.
Exactly.
We can watch the videos and then go read our novel.
Exactly.
Right?
And they're such simple things that anyone can do. It's really a matter of knowing to do them. I did not know when I had infants about serve and return.
Sure.
I maybe did it some just unknowingly, but if I had a 60-minute video and seen that, it would have caused some different, maybe better interactions. And I think that's where this platform is going to be such a gift. I think the other piece of this is childcare workers, they don't have time during the day. They're taking care of children, and having someone come and just speak at you is hard. And so for them to be able to have short videos to do when they are able to is going to give them a lot more freedom and accessibility than they have right now.
I love everything about this. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I learned so much about Begin Bright. I learned so much about the opportunity to actually serve the library through our treasure, time, talent, and treasure.
Yes.
And just what a resource you are for parents. I've known that at every stage of my life, but I think when you get in the weeds, it's really easy to forget. And when you feel like you're drowning between car pickup line and trying to work and trying to figure out what to feed your family and all the things, you just need someone to reach out and help you because you don't know how to ask for help. And I feel like that's what we've covered today is here's how the library is poised and ready to help thank you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Yes, thank you.